I was requested by Shamnijis to give a talk on possibly health or psychology and how you can get connected spiritually through that. I pondered about it because I have very knowledgeable and scholar Shamnijis here, and I'm going to speak on spiritualism. I think that was a wrong equation. So I requested the Shamnijis to actually have the talk with them so that I can continue to get more knowledge from them. My talk was in a separate session and the Shamnijis were supposed to be in a separate session, so I said no, I won't do that because I need to learn from you all, and that's why we made this effort of coming together. I'm going to give my talk in different sessions. Would you mind if you can move the pointer for me? Thank you. Just the next button. Okay, can you see that? So for me, internal transformation, I think, is something that will soothe my soul, heal the heart, and leave room to be loved and to love. And that's really the reason why I thought I would use the caption health and positive spiritual transformation. Health, really the reason because I'm a medical practitioner, and spiritual transformation is because I'm currently going through that process of spiritual transformation. But any spiritual transformation will be a positive impact, and that's why I put the word positive there. Just as a background, I'm born to a modern Jain family. I wouldn't say my parents have been very conservative in terms of Jain thoughts. So I'm born to a modern Jain family with a balance of culture and being practical in life, really. I'm a pediatrician by profession, and when I met Jeet first, so Jeet, I have to give a lot of credit to Jeet for what I am today. But when I met Jeet first, he asked me, "What's your aim in life?" And I told him that it's having my work-life balance right. That will be my aim in life. And even today, if he asks me, I'll continue to say that because I think it's a bit difficult to balance our lives. But along with that, also to have the spiritual aspect into it. And the motto I would say for me is live and let live. And that's what Jainism is all about. We have to live, but also we have to let live, and this can include even the microorganisms. And we are very mindful of even the smallest creature in this world. I have few disclaimers and confidentiality that I need to discuss about. Really, I didn't have any conflict of interest, but there are just a few of them. This is a process for my self-learning as well, and that's my conflict of interest for this talk. But also to promote JVB events, because I think the Shamnijis, we learn a lot from them, and for you to attend any of the JVB sessions if you can. They're really encouraging and thought-provoking. So even in the future, please come and join the JVB events. And the confidentiality issue is that these are some of the experiences that I've had in my personal life, my colleagues have had, and so I'll be touching upon some of the patients that I've come across. So please don't discuss it outside. I haven't asked permission from the relevant families, so please don't discuss it outside. But I'm going to share my experiences. For me, spirituality is a process that takes me through, or an individual throughout the course of one's life. It becomes an integral part of everyone, and it just not only achieve through attending these sort of retreats, but you can actually achieve spirituality by the day-to-day work that you're doing. For me, it's my profession. For few people, it might be just gardening that might be taking them to a different level. So spirituality really, definition for me is that even the day-to-day life, if you're really engrossed into it and takes you to another level, then that is spirituality. We all try and lead our lives. For different people, it might mean differently. You can lead a normal life, and that's the man in the blue. But there are people like many of us who can get frustrated and we are going downhill, and we need help and pull from someone in that grey body to get us up and out of that frustration. But there are some of us like Shamnijis who choose to actually have a purposeful life. And they don't only transcend to a different level, but they also pull us along and they take us along to their level of state. There is a concept of spiritual evolution, and you can see that man has evoluted to what we are now. But you can also transcend towards the spiritual level. That's the impression I got looking at this image. But the other impression I got is this man converts into a woman. So whether the man is following what a woman is, and she's always at a spiritual level and at a high level. So I don't know what it means, this statement. But the spiritual path is just simply a journey of living our lives, and everyone is on a spiritual path. Most people just don't know it. So, and that's what even I'm trying to find, just not from the retreat, but always, what is our path really? Coming to the topic of spiritual health, it is really important. And what is really spiritual health? It is just not a physical and mental well-being, but also, we all know about physical and mental well-being, but there is also the spiritual health that we need to get touch-based into, because they are really intertwined with each other, and balancing them is an important task. I just want to just give examples of the times when one level goes down and how the rest of them get affected. So if we're sad and emotional, we can get tired, fatigued, then we have lack of energy, we don't feel that we are true to ourselves, and get really disconnected from universe. So this is how, just an example to show how spirituality is intertwined with physical and mental health. And if we are, for example, even if we are sort of disconnected from our life's path, then we will get moody, and we don't feel like doing things and get stressed. And that's really the importance of why we need to think about how much of spirituality do we follow, and do we take this further. And the benefits really is that we reach a metaphysical world. There are various levels of consciousness that you reach at, and it's more about self-realization and taking you to a higher sort of realm. Now, this is the important sort of areas where I'm going to bring you case studies which I have come across as a pediatrician. And you can imagine that a job of a pediatrician, although I do it every day and I've got used to it, it can be fairly challenging. And the reason it's challenging, it's just not the child that you have to deal with, but it's the rest of the family you have to deal with. So that's one of the challenging areas that we face all the time. But importantly, बच्चा अपने आँख का या चाँद का टुकड़ा होता है, और उसको अगर कोई दिक्कत हो जाए, so you can imagine what the families are going through when they are coming and visiting us to the hospital, or they're coming to a clinic, and the lessons that I've learned from many of these families or the sick children is what I'm going to portray here. So I just want to ask you, if you have, Khuda na khasta, God forbid, if you have somebody who you know very well, or somebody very close to you, and they're going through an illness or a process of illness, or mental health issue or physical health issue, what are the thought processes that you might be thinking about, or the child or the patient might be having? What are the feelings or the emotional stresses that you might be going through? Just open to the audience.
No sleep.
Lack of sleep.
I think mundane activities and emptiness in life.
Okay.
Depression.
Fear of uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
No enthusiasm.
Lack of enthusiasm.
That's it, lack of zeal.
Lack of zest and zeal.
Feeling low.
Sorry.
Feeling low.
Low mood.
Getting
And-
angry.
Sorry.
Getting angry.
Anger, that's correct. So I've put quite a few things up there. But eventually what happens is sometimes we also see children who then tend to come to hospital because they self-harm. So the suicidal ideation, they want to take their lives, life is not worth it. And these are the thoughts that come through people's mind, or in my experience, children's mind. And from their perspective, it is the other person's life is really a straight line going very smoothly, but my life is a complete mess. And so what I wanted to sort of bring in here is how then can we have, what traits or what attributes can we then have to actually change our level of our personality and what then we are gaining consciously. So I'm just giving some examples here. If you're being attentive, then the more attentive you are, the more experience you may get. The more intelligent you may be because you're gaining knowledge, the more understanding you may become. If you're becoming more reasonable, then your judgment gets better. And if you're becoming responsible, then you will decide better. So when we speak to patients, when we're talking to patients, we have to put ourselves in their shoes and then think, what is the actual problem? Why are they finding it so difficult to deal with the problems that they're facing? And then we get many of the other team members get involved to make them understand that they need to come out of it and get the support of the family or through other key workers to help them through this process. And for me, although I don't necessarily have a lot of mental health issues like how we see patients or physical health issues, but we all are in search of well-being. And for me, my sort of transformation is that I've started going, I've learned from my children really, and I've started going to Shamliji's almost every week and sit with them, and we learn mantras, we discuss topics, and like how you're getting enlightened, we try and get a little bit of their knowledge and bring that into practice, and that's what I'm doing. Yes, question?
We can do the bhakti of Joyce Tirthankar, so a patient can get better.
A patient can get better?
She's learning Bhakti, Bhaktamar.
So I'm learning Bhaktamar with Shamliji's as well.
Right now.
What I've also done is, whilst I was learning myself through a lot through this talk, and there are lots of papers and research which have gone into how can you then what is the process, or how can you get this information? And one of the examples that I found in one of the papers was similar to what we're doing now, joining retreats, attending sessions where there are gurus and knowledgeable people who can then guide us through. Yes?
Don't you think intellect is the biggest culprit in your spiritual growth?
So I completely agree that the more you have in terms of knowledge, it can.
It's a questioning mind, because all these things are above our intellectual level or logic.
That's right.
Well, we try to apply with a scientific mind, and we don't get convinced. It's a half-hearted faith.
So which is
How
why.
to transfer it to a. I wish I had a blind faith. That's my wish, but it doesn't happen.
That's correct. And
So
I
it's
think.
the intellect that's interfering.
So it does, and I think Shamliji want to say something here.
Intellect, actually, as Bhagwan Mahavir said, what you have as your potentiality is because of your purity of the soul. So intellect, if you've got, it is because of the purification of your jnana or karma to that extent. But what creates problem is moha karma, which is attachment and aversion. So the background which works with your potentiality is bigger culprit than your potentiality itself. So usually this happens, like if you think I should have had a blind faith,
Like that, yes. That will make life a lot easier.
Yes.
we might end up into trouble because blind faith is also there in a person who's going for jihad, right? So, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up as an extreme example. But what we aspire as a spiritual being is nothing but a spiritual escalation, which ultimately is purifying your emotions, that's likes and dislikes. The more your likes and dislikes are calmed down, you would not go into the trap of reasoning everything. You would look with a purer mind and things would be more clear to you.
And
I
also,
will make him.
yeah, like knowledge is our own consciousness. Gyan and Atma, there is no difference. What is Jaya se Vinaya? The oldest scripture, Acharan Sutra, define what is Atma. Atma is equal to
Knower.
Gyan, means knower. Knowledge, knower, that is our Atma, and that is our intrinsic quality. So that's why we should not think that okay, if there is blind or blind faith, that is right. So that is not the right thinking. It means there is some delusion.
Pure faith is better word than blind
No,
faith, I
I
think.
don't have any confusion in identifying me as a knower,
Yeah.
observer.
Okay.
That I know, the consciousness sees me, even my intellect, my mind. But it's, I want to develop
Pure faith.
pure faith or bhakti,
Yeah.
That's
and
better.
that's where
I have one of the answer for your question. So Ajay Mahapragya in one of his book in Jain Logic, The Dimension of Jain Logic, he mentions that the same questions come that how can we enter into the world of faith and equally intellectual, because Shraddha and Gyan, as we were discussing in today morning, both are equally important. Shraddha is important as well as knowledge is important. Intellectual growth is also important. So one of the answers that I found to be more convincing is, he says that we have to understand the categories. There are two categories. There are categories in which we need to apply logic, and if we don't make sense. It's very important, highly important to apply logic to the categories which are in the logical field.
Yeah,
If we
that's-
don't apply logic to that, it will be irrelevant to understand that concept. But there is other category called as the faith category. And in the faith category, the problem with us is we intermix the categories. One of the problem is we intermix the categories. The categories of faith and the categories of knowledge are two different things. And where there is a category of knowledge, we should definitely apply logic to that and argue for that. And the category which is not in the field of intellectual, we should have a faith. And I can say that blind faith will also work. But we have to identify the category of faith.
But how do you develop that faith if the questioning mind?
It will come. You have to just commit yourself.
No,
that this
you
is, yeah.
realize that you are nobody. There's nothing in your hands.
Mhm.
It's all happening. The universe, universal forces. You may be contributing this much, but still, when it comes to believing, there is a part of you. You say, "Are you sure that that's the right thing?" Or that's where
I think once we are very clear that, oh, this will not come into the category of intellectual, the other step that we can take is faith.
But how do you say that whether
But-
that
but-
faith is correct or
Yeah,
wrong?
that's a very good question. So further, it will go one step and say that my faith should not be harmful to anything. Mitti me savva bhuvesu. I should be conscious of understanding that I should have a faith, and I can go to an extreme point of having a blind faith, but with a condition that my faith should not produce any kind of harm to any existence. That's the point. Mitti me savva bhui.
Thank you.
Appana sache me sajja, and then added, Lord Mahavir added, Mitti me savva bhuyechu. My search for truth should not bring harm to any entity.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think we're also, so we're just touching to that topic, that how do you know that you're in the right path or not? And that's why I've another paper which discussed about what the process is to get into that path. And I've got a pictorial diagram, but what it really says is you become believers. And through that you can then, there's a sort of chain of events which then happen. If you become believers, there's a chain of events which is an interaction commitment cycle, it's called, and through that you then convert yourself and head towards a spiritual growth. And it is also called this conceptual model of belief conversion, and really that's the diagram which is which has come up in some of those papers. And I'm going to go through the individual sort of areas, or the main sort of areas, and how or what makes somebody change. To be very honest, I was not too much into Jainism, because I've been brought up in a convent school, and it's not about religion for me. I do believe in God, but it's about what has made the changes. And it is, we were discussing in an earlier session about circumstances, and there are circumstances which every individual go through, and that brings the change in them. And that's the process which actually shows on this picture. I'm going to go individually through that, and initially it talks about the circumstances. So there are different factors which can change a person, and initially it's the context, it's the environment in which the change is occurring, and then there is a crisis. So there might be context, but there might not be a crisis, and you may not want to change yourself. But if there is, when both the factors meet up, which is the context and the crisis, then the crisis acts as a catalyst, and it can be an internal or an external crisis, something which has happened to us, where people get to know, or it might be an internal conflict that you're trying to resolve. And then you lead on to this path, which is the quest, which is an active pursuit of change. And from there on, there is this the encounter interaction process or phase that happens. I'm going to again break this down into much more simpler version that has made me understand, and hopefully should make you understand. So when we go through this the quest, or when we're going through this process of pursuing the ideas of change, you then get into this environment of what we call as meeting potential converts and people who advocate new belief and movement. So you fall into this environment where you then learn about new ideas and new concepts. And from there on, maybe there are some ideas which you may not really succumb to, but there might be some ideas which you may succumb to. And then you then think there are some ideas that you want to get committed. So that's the next sort of circle, that there's the next the commitment that you want to show, and you make a public you may make a public pronunciation that you are committed to, say, I would say Jainism, for example. And from there on, you then there's a roller coaster of interaction that may happen, which will slowly change your beliefs and movements, and then that will lead you to convert into another new person, or convert your concepts, and that's the sort of cascade that occurs. But what is important also is when this whole process is happening, it might eventually lead to something as a consequence. There will be consequences out of it, and there are ramifications out of it, which converts not only your lives, but also maybe other people's lives. And this is a very good sort of concept that I came across. And whilst we're doing this, we then have to also balance that external activities, but also promote internal peace and strength. It is all about also looking at what pathway you want to take. You want to introspect yourself, and that will also ensure your physical well-being. This is a very sensitive topic, but I will bring this into it because I'm a pediatrician. Obviously, apart from dealing with sick children, doing outpatient clinics, and doing resuscitation on lots of children who do get better, actually, majority of the times, we do see death as well. Initially it was daunting to go through the process as an individual. The first few sort of deaths that I came across when I was in training, and how the families have of course had a devastating time, and how they recoup. Many times when children they're having problems with children, and many times when there are deaths, people are of course finding fault. Whose fault was this? Was this the hospital who didn't manage the child well? Was it my child? Was it? And they feel guilty as well. That was it something that we've done that has caused the big loss. But there are some lessons that I've learned from some of the parents who. And I'm individually going to go through these sort of children really. So we had a little less than a year baby who basically came in dead, and we found out that there were some circumstances in the house that had actually, I won't go into detail about it, but there were some circumstances in the house that had caused her death. And then we had to deal with just not the baby and do the official sort of postmortem process, but also we had to then deal with this very guilty parents who knew that when we said that this is why the child has died, who knew the cause of death, and they said we didn't ever think that this is what will cause the child to die. So and then we had this whole process of bereavement, and we had lots of meeting with these families, and of course psychologists do get involved in everyone. But then I had met this family because I was dealing with the child quite a lot. I also met with the family later on to discuss about the postmortem results and everything. And I think the biggest lesson that I learned from that mother was, you know what, I feel so guilty that now I've lost my child, but actually I want to become a midwife so that I can help other family members. And that was a revelation for me to see what the process would have happened for this mother to go through that, but actually be ready to actually become a midwife and help lots of other expecting mothers to deliver their children. And I'm sure that we did discuss about religion, and we did discuss about spirituality at that time. But I'm sure that there is a roller coaster of sort of thought process that happens in an individual to bring them to that sort of conclusion, really. There was again another patient who had cancer, and we knew it was an anticipated sort of a death for that child. And because it was not sudden, there's this sort of all this, the family is going through a process of preparation, and they want to then sort of think about how can we make their own child live amongst themselves, and this mother then decided to become a nurse. I bumped into her a few times while she was training, and so age did not have a limit at all. She again, to become a nurse, she decided at that relevant age that's it. She wants to help other family members. She wanted to become a cancer nurse. So that's how people learn. They learn from their own instances. The other experience I've had is when again a baby, a child, a toddler actually, she came in dead, and this was a very famous artist, and whatever the circumstances was. But when I met this family, I was very surprised when mother said that there's something more that we have to do in this world. Maybe God is preparing us to do something more, and that's why we're going through this process. And these are the sort of instances that I've learned from, really, and made me mentally strong as well. And again, most of the times when we have deaths, the families are of course devastated, and they just then start thinking about what they need to do and how they need to, what the process and everything. But we have some families who come back and tell the medical team, thank you for doing what you've done. And I think for us, we are also bereaving along with them. But for us, that is a very big satisfaction that we did all our best, and actually the family acknowledged that we did all our best, and it was not in our hands. So, and for people to come out like this is a big, it was a big sort of learning point for me, that even if I'm in difficulty or I'm in trouble, I should not forget to actually thank somebody who would have taken some effort, really. There's another recent sort of paper that I was coming across as to what the theories or the aspects might be that can cause sort of, although there might be a bereavement process, how do people go through a spiritual growth? And again, this is a recent sort of article that I found by somebody as Bray, and this was published in 2010. It just gives, and I mean, it's too much in depth, and I don't think that I will understand it that much. But it's all about sort of the person, what the person is like pre-trauma, what the person is like pre-trauma, and then the person then has a traumatic or an emotional event, and then a whole sort of cascade of scheme of events that may happen, and they may take different arms. They may either get spiritually, there might be a spiritual emergency or spiritual emergence. So it's like a personal crisis of becoming conscious is what they call as spiritual emergency, and spiritual emergence is benign unfolding of the conscious level. And they might have challenges that they may have to go through based on what their beliefs are, what their psyche is all about, what situation they might be in, and go through a bereavement or rumination process. But also, and this process might help them to think about how they want to take their lives ahead. They might be having some self-disclosure, they might be writing prayers, taking a creative approach. And then eventually they want to come out of this sort of distressful situation. And some may really decide to take a psycho-spiritual pathway, and that's how they may grow in their own pathway. So really, I just wanted to bring this, probably last few slides I wanted to bring into, and I quite like this sort of caption, happiness is a butterfly which when pursued is always just beyond your grasp, but which if you will sit down quietly may alight upon you. There's something else as well that I found, that we all are learning different ways of reaching spiritual heights, but there are stages which take place, and I just want to bring this just almost the last few slides that shows that it might be there are usually sort of two process of journey, the first half and the second half, and the idea is really that although that you might be getting awakened and you go through a process of transition, there might be ups and downs, but the eventual trend is an upward trend, where you go through a recovery process. There might be a dark night where again you're going down your process, but eventually there's a dawn, and that's why I call this as a positive experience and positive transformation. I'm not going to go through the individual stages, but the last slide I want to say is that we are all into this together, and from Shamiji we have learned a lot. And we need to walk through together to go through this spiritual path. Thank you. That's my references.